Hello everyone, good morning. Well, good morning for me anyways right now, because that's what time it is when I'm recording this. But it has been a while. I decided I got pretty busy with work, so I had to step away, and it just was too much. And then I stepped away to just kind of hit the books, do some research, try to build up this theoretical pseudoscience, sciencey understanding that I'm dealing with, and try to just step away, take that break, and build up that understanding again. But these couple clips are going to be a little out of order. I just started to put this together again and do some experiments and try to document and jot down what I've been working with. And then I saw some clips on MTech, his channel, and it was similar to with one of the configurations that I had before. It just wasn't quite there. And so I just took some coils and just stuff that I had. He's got a very specific setup dimensions. I don't have anything close to that. But even just throwing this together in the 4-coil configuration that he has, it still seems to work. And I don't even have the circuit. I kind of explain that later in another clip that I took before this morning. Another clip was from yesterday when I started this the first time around. So this is a battery. You'll see it later. Deader than hell. I don't know for how long. I got it for free. I just had it, grabbed it out of father-in-law's garage when he was cleaning it out, and it was at 3 volts, and it's charging right now. You're gonna keep trying to charge it, see if it'll build up that charge and maintain it at 12. Right now it was sitting at 4. You'll see that reading again later. And then I took some time and rearranged the lab a little bit. It was over here, and then I added some shelves for all the equipment and coils and all that fun stuff. But we're gonna see if we got time again, and we're gonna get back at it and just doing some research on Tom Bearden, John Bedini, all the other UFO craze podcasts that are out there. Area 52 and Jesse Michaels are really good ones. And actually writing things down too to help with like correlations, and when I remember something I can remember and see how all that stuff lines up, kind of in a, I guess that's what, like polymath, pattern matching type of deal. But yeah, so I'm gonna get this video created and aggregate these clips together, and glad to be back at it. I'm excited. Okay, this is a very dead battery. My big old contraption setup. 12 volts. I'm gonna flip the switch. Switch is flipped. Okay, we're gonna shut it down. It's gonna bounce down because I didn't give it a whole lot of time to charge. But we're gonna see where it settles at. Now let's give it some more. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we got any actual. Oh, we do have wireless power. Am I even resonating that sucker? And let's see if I can get this shot in. Ooh, not a whole lot of. Got an itch, sorry. I should plug this analog meter in to see what current I'm actually pulling out. This is the driving circuit over here. Actually, I'm using this one. This big ass PNP transistor. It's pretty cold, so it's not really heating up. We're charging this freaking battery that was deader than shit. It's just a lawn and garden battery. Grabbed it for free because it was dead. They didn't want it. Now we're seeing if we can bring it back to life. Alright, it sure is jumping around a lot, but let's turn the circuit off now, see where it settles. And this isn't even like a good setup. This is just the coils that I had created to see if I can get this effect to go. And then that's just a rectifier. So there's a coil around this. Oh, okay. So this is just some rubber insulation, but underneath that is coil all the way, copper wound all the way up it. And then there's a L1 coil, just like a couple loops around it for that, and then just another secondary. Oh, I think I just touched the wire. Another secondary, and another one around that secondary. But to make it more, I think to make it more of a better setup. Oh, 550. All right, let's snap that back on. To make this a better setup, is that this needs to be a lot smaller, and then these two are the same size, spun the same amount, and that these two are twice the size as the inner two, and the inner two are opposite. So one is clockwise wound and the other one is counterclockwise wound. The outer two, they're wound together the same, but they're supposed to, like, if I understand it right, essentially pinch the field in and take that energy, convert it, and pound it into this thing. Let it run on and off camera, but I just wanted to get this footage when I started it. This is the first time I tried this, so since I had a super dead battery, I wanted to see if it would work and capture it on camera if it did. Okay, that's 30 seconds. I'm gonna turn it off. It's probably gonna bounce way down. Now it's between 6.5 volts. I really didn't expect it to hold a charge, especially for very long, but it's already doubled its voltage, or it's doubled its charge since I started doing this. There it is, 6.7. That's pretty stable. Damn. All right, I'm gonna keep charging this thing. So I believe when I stopped, it was at 7 volts. So it charged, and it's up from 3 volts, so it held a bit of a charge. I'm doing this with one hand so you can see. 4.6. Okay. So it held a bit of a charge from the charging factor. Now, let's let this thing charge. Flip the switch. Oh, no. Should do this too. Okay. And the other thing, I'll show you what the ammeter says. I'm gonna collapse this. Okay. So get it to where I can read it. So that's about, it's on the 500 setting, so the 40 there is 400 milliamps. So 440, 430 milliamps that's drawing. I mean, the actual power supply doesn't say anything, but, and that 12.3 volts is probably, let's see, I think 11.8 volts was actually 12 volts, so that's probably 12.5. So yeah, bit of an update. Interesting progress. We'll see. This battery was super dead for a long time. Got it for free from the father-in-law's garage. Actually, he was cleaning out, and trying to see if we can bring it back to life with this setup. I will have to say I got a shout out to the M-Tech podcast. He was kind of on a similar path, but with his recent videos I noticed a similarity, and then I decided to just take the coils that I had. I didn't make anything special for this. His setup is much different, but in terms of using four coils, that aspect is the same. And so yeah, this was a lot of the inspiration, the idea was from essentially validating and trying to recreate M-Tech's videos, that his experiments and setup that he's been doing. And the difference is that this is I think his setup is still technically a Slayer exciter circuit with a diode modification, and I think he's got a capacitor. I just have, and he's also using an NPN transistor. I just have a PNP transistor connected in the back right here, one big one. This one's not connected. And then the one pot right there. That's it. And then at the end of one coil, there's another coil down in there. This is coil number 3, coil number 4. At the end of coil number 4, same rectifier. I do not have the capacitor in between coil 3, the ends of coil 3. I actually have it tapped into an equivalent coil right here, and then that goes to ground, where you can actually see this ground jar will resonate. I had to touch it to get it started, but there's no water in it right now. If I had water in it, it would resonate a lot better. But yeah, check out M-Tech's podcast, or not really but his channel. His stuff is great, and we're all just kind of trying to follow along the same path and figure out how to pull some energy out from the vacuum. Okay, side note. Couple of things. These two wires right here, they're nothing. This is just a long skinny tube, and so I used that to hold on to some ferrite rods for me. So that's all this is. Okay. Another thing, so I have a theory, and I believe other people have said this too. That's not an original thought. It's about current with this type of particular system. I'm trying to think of current here as almost your output capacity. And when you have current, that's rather your waste of output. But thinking of it as your capacity in this type, because we can see, I think as the battery gets charged, I actually start to pull more current. And I mean, the battery is completely decoupled. But as this battery charges, the impedance drops, I believe. I'm pretty sure I have that right. So it gets more efficient. And so the current goes up because the load becomes less. So I think my theory is to think of that as your system's capacity. If it's drawing a shit ton of current, your load is not balanced because you're way underloading the system. So you have a lot of current, so the system's excess energy is wasted as current. If I had more of a load, the current would go down. So if I get this battery, or if I put on this light, I want to see if once the light goes on, if the current goes down. And actually, as I put my hand in, actually the current's going up. So I'm adding extra capacitance. So this might be hard to test, but I can't even actually get the bulb to light up at all. I have to do this jar of sand over here. Oh yeah, look at that. No, it's not like crazy. Okay, it's lit now. Oh, sorry. There. I'm just trying to watch it as I put the fluorescent bulb on and off. So right now it's off, bulb is on, and it's not really. Okay, I'm just tapping my finger on and off of it, so I'm making the bulb like flicker. And that's what the current does. Doesn't do much. Probably because my hand's in there. It's fluctuating based on where my body is. But I believe Bearden said that. Maybe John Bedini also said it. Maybe some others have said it. Yeah, that's how I'm gonna try and think about current. If that's right or wrong, well, we'll find out, I guess. But stay tuned. Thanks for watching if you guys see this. Okay, I just need to record this video quick. So here's the oscilloscope reading. The purple is the wave going into a charged battery right now. I'm trying to recharge a battery off of this circuit. I'll pan to it in a second. The yellow curve is the receiver coil winding. So let's see if you can see the numbers. So we got about, just a 6 voltage spike maybe going into it, or maybe 3 volts off each end. We're just using that right transistor. It's an NPN transistor. I believe a 5200 model. We got the power supply set to basically 40 volts. And this is basically the same circuit that M-Tech shows. So it's kind of just like a validation of his work and to see what kind of recharge capabilities we can get. 100 kilo ohm resistor, capacitors in parallel with the emitter, whoops, and the negative terminal. You can't, there we go. And then to this goes to the bottom of my L1 coil. So there's 2 windings around the center, 2 windings around the outside of coils. This kind of looks like a mess, but basically I've got a cap bank in parallel with the inner winding of this coil, and then the outer winding of this coil goes to a full wave rectifier. I'm only using the bottom half. It's a double rectifier, but I'm just using the first half. It's still a full wave. I just got 2 of them connected. That's off because a battery is connected. So you can see the battery is connected to the copper alligator clamps. So the negative is attached to the negative side of the rectifier, and the positive is attached to the positive side of the rectifier. You can see my oscilloscope probe on the positive side of the rectifier. And remember, you want to look at the bottom one, so you can see the 2 bars on the diodes are the same, way on each side on the bottom, because they're connected there, that yellow alligator clamp, and then the red one here. Let's see if I can get my finger. Ooh. Depth perception here. Right there, that red alligator clamp, that's also probed, goes to that outer winding. But this is the charge voltage. This is just an inverter. I want to see if how well I can use power afterwards. But this was roughly 10.2, and it is going up. Before, it went from 10.2 to 10.22, and then 0.23, and then jumped to 25. So we'll see if it keeps going. So far, not bad. And just some ferrite rods for tuning. Capacitors are for tuning. And then here is an idea I'm going to try. So this is going to be a mold, and I've got, this is for kind of making a ferrite core. So I've got some epoxy, and then I have some iron oxide, some natural magnetite. Oh, is there no label on this thing? Okay. Well, this is just white sand. Quartz. Refined, crushed quartz. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make a ferrite core with a mixture of the crushed, refined, powdered quartz with the black iron oxide and epoxy to set the powders to a solid core. And the thing that I'm going to try and look at is, so when these rods in the center, when they resonate right, they start to vibrate, and vibrate is pressure. And quartz creates the piezoelectric effect when it's under pressure. So my theory or hypothesis to see how well this will work is if the vibrations from the ferrite core of the black iron oxide will enact the piezoelectric effect on the crushed powdered sand, quartz, and see if I can tap into that vibrational piezoelectric energy as an extra output from this system, rather than just using the ferrite cores as just basically a tuning resonant fork, a resonator, but to also take that vibrational energy as an extra output to charge. So we'll see. I gotta get around to actually making that, but stay tuned. All right, this is very odd. So today, this is the waveform I get. It's very different, but this is the desired waveform for sure. This is that H wave. I don't know what changed. First I thought, so I didn't do an O-scope reading on this with this battery connected, so I thought, okay, maybe they're different batteries. That's a car battery. This is a smaller lawn garden battery. Thought that was the case. Switched it back, the O-scope reading to this battery, got the same waveform. I didn't change anything, so I don't know why I'm getting a different waveform, but I am. You know, the only thing I really play with is adjusting the ferrite rods, adjusting the parallel cap bank with the inner coil of my outer winding, and that's pretty much all I mess with. I did this yesterday too, though. I have this wire, or this cable. This is just connected to the my ground wire in my house. So it goes out over there, my utility room's in there, and I just take the small prong, connect it to my house ground cable, and I got that grounded. That's grounded to the base, the bottom of one of the L1 or L2 cables in that inner coil. That didn't change today. Doing the same thing. Did that yesterday. I did make one adjustment, but this had no effect to the waveform. So there's this white cable. This is connecting the negative of this rectifier or the battery, you know, because it's all negative, 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 and I connected it to the positive side of my transmitter circuit, kind of like what Bedini did in his Bedini motor, where he has the charging battery, the positive goes to the positive. In his circuit he doesn't have the negative connected to anything, but this I do, but he did have the negative of the charge battery connect back to the positive terminal of the input battery, the power battery. So that's all I did. That just significantly enhanced the peak spike voltage. Kind of makes sense that it's roughly 40 volts when I'm outputting roughly 40 volts. So I'm getting a little extra additional voltage from just the induction there. Current draw out of that power supply is, 180 milliamps, so it's roughly 7 watts of power being used to charge this battery, and it's at 10.36. I thought maybe, oh, okay, it is going up to 37. Slow. It's still slow. But yesterday it seemed to peak at about 10.34 with only about a 7-volt spike. Now we have a 40-volt spike, so I do expect it to charge faster. Not by 10 millivolts though. But yeah, I don't know, but I figured I'd record it. Stay tuned again. Thanks, guys. Update, we are at 10.9 volts. Good progress. Still have that waveform going on. It's been about an hour. And now I am just mixing. I got some epoxy, about 50 milliliters. I've mixed 60, so 30 and 30. You gotta do a 1-to-1 ratio. This is my black iron oxide and white quartz sand mixture. I did about 20 milliliters of each, so 40 milliliters in total of a powder mixture, and just mixing that in. Yep, and then we'll hopefully have about maybe roughly 100 milliliters. We're gonna add this coil into it so I could try and see if I can tap any electrical energy out of it. We're gonna pour the mixture into that. That's my mold. So I'm just slowly pouring in the powder. Okay, I think this is gonna be the last video in this compilation. Yeah, you see that inverter there? I've been trying to use it, but I think I fried it. I don't know. I've been waiting for this battery to actually attempt to reach a full charge. I mean, the interesting thing is once it reaches a max voltage, it seems to be way easier for it to charge back up. Yesterday it took basically 8 hours to reach maybe 11 points. I think it was 30 volts it got up to. That's its max. And you know, starting at 10, it's about the 10.35 now. So it is receiving a little bit of it is maintaining a little bit of a charge after this, but it's only been going for maybe an hour, and it's back up to 11.18, sorry, starting at that 10.3, so it comes back a lot faster, but let's see, waiting for some connectors to come because I'm really excited. I built this guy a while ago, and it's 2 cables of 24 wires, and you might recognize it. It's basically like a rodent coil, but since this thing works, and it works based off of the inner L1 and L2 coil that's separate as the transmitter, the inner small one, those are counter-wound coils that does the transmission. What's a rodent coil? Those are counter-wound wirings, and essentially each cross-sectional area there should spike a longitudinal wave. So I'm actually really excited to I'm getting some connectors. I'm going to solder on 24 pin connectors, so it's going to be really easy to plug and play the 2 cables. And basically I'm going to have, you know, the gold as a separate winding, and then the red and bronze or brass colored as the L2 outer cable. And this is like 3 layers, so I wonder how that's going to play into it. And anything, it looks pretty sweet, but I'm actually pretty excited to see what this thing does as the new transmitter. I haven't really been able to get that thing to do anything useful. Another note, okay, well, preliminary, there's that epoxy black iron oxide and sand quartz mixture with the coil in there. I have my probe on there, so eventually it's going to go in the center, but I'm waiting for the 3 days for that thing to fully cure. But a preliminary, okay, so preliminary reading, It's a blue probe. We get a tiny little spike. So that could be interesting. And that's just technically it's a tiny little coil, spool I showed in the, depending on how I clip these together, probably the previous clip. The other thing is, let's see what else to note today. We're on the 500 range setting. So it's the 0 to 50 black lettering there for the amps, milliamps. So 20 would be about 200 milliamps. That's about 195, I would say. And our peak is 53 volts. I have seemed to fry, I think I fried the LED indicator on my power supply. Yeah, and then the ground cable. Let's see. That thing is interesting. So it is, we'll take a little trip to my utility room. So it's that cable going, sneaking. Okay. Alligator clamp to my house ground. And then it just, whoops. Then it just clamps to my water pipe, my copper water piping. But that, having that connected, I've noticed something interesting. Go up to my garage, see if you can hear this. So I have an in-ground fence, like dog fence, dog wire. Hopefully you can hear that beeping. Whenever I have this circuit connected, it causes that to beep. So that's been an interesting thing I've been trying to explore. I've been turning on and off house lights and looking at my electrical meter to see if I can notice anything. I don't really notice anything, but just something interesting to log and note. I think that's about covers this update. Excited about the Rodent coil. Excited about this circuit. We're gonna get a new inverter. Hopefully. The idea would be to connect this inverter to the battery. And I got this old radio clock that I had. And we're gonna try and run that to see if what kind of actual output usage, how useful this can be, because that's what matters, right? So I guess there is another thing to note. It seems to be a weird correlation. Sometimes you tune that capacitor bank and where this other red one is, that cap bank, those get set to different values sometimes, and sometimes I adjust the Ferrite rods. It's just kind of, it's different. Sometimes I need 3, sometimes I put it in 6, and then sometimes I bring it back down to 1 and then I can notice it falls out of resonance when that graph starts being all buzzy and hazy, and well, let's see if I can do it. So I'm gonna unplug the ground, and the current is gonna spike, and we get that graph, and current is like crazy. And then I'm gonna put ground back on, and it's happy. And it's back down to, oh, I think we made it go up to 200 milliamps. But yeah, lots of interesting things to note and play around with. I think I'm gonna get this video made. Let me know what you guys think, to who ever decides to watch this, and give me some, just throw out some suggestions, ideas, comments, complaints, whatever you guys can think of, because
I get to a point where sometimes you kind of just run out of ideas of things to try before you move on to the next thing. So feedback is much helpful. But all right, bye-bye.